Okay, good morning, everyone. If we could get everyone in from the hallways, we're going to begin this morning. We have a full morning planned, and of course, most of it is going to surround our guests for the morning, which is great. And I am glad that you're here to catch up. Some of you to catch up, some of you to meet for the first time. And that's one of the reasons we asked Will to come here is, while many, or probably half of you may know who Will and his family is, half of you don't know who Will is, and that's fine, right? Well, that's a good thing. That's great. We want to introduce them to you this morning. We want to introduce their ministry to you. We're familiar with the ministry that he's doing because we support one missionary in Indiana who does this, but now we're bringing a second one here to kind of let you know what their plans are, and it is different because it's a different area, different coaches, different everything, and so we're excited about that. Got to meet Will a lot more last night, had dinner with him and his wife. We came shortly after Will and his family left south. Will was on staff here for 5 years as the outreach pastor and did a lot of things, paved the way for our church to have the connection with Carmen Ainsworth that we have, and even to this day, we are allowed to do things with Carmen that probably we would never be able to do if Will hadn't paved the way for that. I was just to give you a little bit of a insight as to some of the things that Will has done. They've asked the last several or two different times. They've asked if I would serve on a board that reviews some of their education classes, specifically one area of education, and I won't tell you what that area is, but it's an area where they have to have two pastors in the area to review that curriculum. And they asked if I would be a part of that. I don't think they would have ever approached me if Will hadn't had a part in connecting our church with Carmen. And to this day, we still have that connection. So thank you for doing that, integral in that. Will's going to present his ministry this morning, and then he's going to preach for me this morning as well, and I'm excited about that. The little kids are going to come in. I didn't know they were going to do that. So cool. They even get to listen to you this morning. So the pressure is on, man. It's on. So let's have a word of prayer, and then Will come up and take the remainder of our time. Leave some room for questions at the end. I'm sure some people will have them. But let's have a word of prayer. God, thank you so much for just how you use people, that you choose to use sinful human beings like each and every one of us in this room to carry out your purpose and your plan here on this earth. You have a purpose, you have a plan, and God, you could carry it out in any number of different ways, but you choose to use us, and that is a humbling thing, and yet sometimes we just take that for granted. We assume that you're just going to do it on your own. You don't need anyone to do it, but you choose to use us, and you want to use us, and so we need to answer that call. And God, I'm thankful for Will and his family and how they're answering the call in their life to make this transition in their life at this time. The easy thing would have been for him to stay where he was, doing what he was doing, moving ahead in the direction that church had for him and for the ministry there, but you've called him to do a work among a group of people that desperately need to hear about Christ, and who very few people will have the opportunity to share with them about Christ because of who they are and what they do. So God, you're giving him an impact to affect a generation that many of us won't ever have the ability to do. And so we're excited about that. God, I pray that you would speak through him, you would encourage us today with what you're doing in him, and you would challenge us to answer the call of God. in our life to serve you. And we ask it in Christ's name, amen. Will.
Good morning. It is good to be with you this morning. South Baptist Church is home for our family. Many of you know we were here from 2004 to 2009. It was the very first church that I had opportunity to serve at. So all of my context of ministry, the good things and the bad things, they come from South Baptist. And so it's a joy for us to be here. We have a video we want to show about the family. I'll give you a little update, and then we'll go from there. That's me and the wife. All right, as you see, those of you who, it's been a long time. My wife, Melinda, she's right here, and we've been married 20 years now. My oldest daughter, Alexandria, she'll be graduating this year, June 24th, and she's going to the University of Albany, and she'll be playing volleyball there. Marcus, my son, he's ninth grade, and he is his class president, quarterback of the football team and all that type stuff, and so pray for him that he doesn't get knocked out this coming season. Victoria is in the 6th grade now, and she plays basketball and soccer, and she likes to run track. We are a lot of exciting times here, so as we come here, we see you as family. And so Victoria will be 12 on May the 5th. And then one day, my wife came to me, Easter Sunday, and the next Payne will be born on December 3rd. So continue to pray for my wife, the little transitions that we're having. I always thought it would be Larry Burke that would do that, but it happened to me. So, but it's quite a joy to share that with you. We are now presently at Syracuse University FCA, and just to give you a background, back in 2004 when we came here as the outreach pastor, one of the things that we did is we got involved with the local school districts. There were two people, Cheryl Badur, Cheryl Trogan at this time, and Paula Brill, who helped me make a connection with Mott Women's basketball team. That's when we first came here. From Mott Women's basketball, we then got involved with Carmen Ainsworth and got to serve with them as chaplains to football and basketball and open up a lot of doors of ministry. During that time, I would often say to my wife, it would be kind of cool if we could just do this full time and work with athletes and coaches and just invest in their lives. When we left South, we went to a church in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we were involved with a Kalamazoo Central High School with their basketball program. And that basketball program, while we were there, they had a lot of success. I think they won the back-to-back state championships. That coach, down the road when we came to Syracuse, and they made calls to talk about us, he spoke very highly of us. Rory Matter, who was the old coach at Carmen Ainsworth, he spoke highly of us in South Baptist Church. South Baptist Church always comes up in the Payne family discussion. It's a good thing. And so back in September of last year, we received a call to ask if we would be interested in becoming the campus directors for FCA at Syracuse University. There was a man who was the director of basketball operations at Syracuse who I had done a lot of counseling with, who recommended us for the job. At first I said, no, I don't want to do that. Because when you do that, the first thing that comes up is missionary, raise money. Why would I want to do that? I can stay here at the church. I'll stay here. I'll take over. And, hey, it's just you preach and you don't have to go raise money. But my wife, in her wisdom, encouraged me to pray. And we talked about things in the past, and we started to pray about it. And we decided to move forward in the process. So on November 5th of last year, I actually accepted the position of the campus director at Syracuse University. Then we had to raise funds. And the Lord did some miraculous things, and fundraising and so on has come in pretty quickly. And I actually started on March 1st of this past year. And so what we do, I know that you guys are familiar with FCA. A lot of things when you walk onto that campus, you're trying to figure out who everybody is and learn all the rules and regulations. But God is sovereign. The coach of Syracuse University is Jim Boeheim. When we first came to Syracuse, there was a lady who knew the Boeheim family and their daughter. And their daughter emailed my daughter before we even got to Syracuse. So they were emailing back and forth. Then when we got to Syracuse, my daughter Alexandria played basketball, and the Boeheims were on the same team as Alexandria. So I got to talk to his wife and to him a good amount. My father-in-law, my wife's father, is from Syracuse, and he was involved with a lot of Coach Boeheim's camps and so on. So God, he had already laid the foundation 5 years ago before this happened. So then when we came into the scene, Coach Boeheim is Syracuse University. And if Coach Boeheim says no, 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 then it's no, no, no. But Coach Boeheim and his wife, especially his wife, have a heart for athletes. She is from the South, and she was actually instrumental in bringing FCA to Syracuse University 5 years ago. And so through all those connections and God's sovereignty, the things we learned here at South, the way God prepared things before we got to Syracuse, now we come to Syracuse University, FCA. And so we have a lot of things going on. Greg has a video we're going to show you of some of our athletes. It's a quick video. I picked the beat because that's the beats I like, and then we'll go from there. You go to the next slide. So little things about FCA that if you think about sports, and you can read the slide, but athletes have the greatest ability to connect with people. Everyone loves sports. So in Syracuse, there is no professional team. Everyone comes to the Dome. So if you know anything about basketball attendance, we've had the highest amount of people to come to a game. We played Duke, and there were 36,000 people in the Orange Dome. And so that just the ability, if we can impact the lives of these athletes, see many of them come to Christ, the platform that they have is probably greater than the platform that most of us will ever have in our lives. So the goal of FCA is to engage the players, engage the coaches, and tell them about Christ. This past year, I went on my first road trip. And when you go on your road trips, I travel with the women to Mississippi State for the tournament. I think the men actually didn't make, we don't consider the playing game making the tournament there, because that's not really making the tournament. So I traveled with the women, and it was my first road trip. And I'm a little nervous, about going on this road trip until I got to the plane. I get to the plane, I'm thinking, we're not standing in line. And it was this nice little charter plane. I've never flown on a charter plane. And you get on the plane, and it's got those nice big seats. You didn't sit by anybody. Oh, I was like, it felt so good. And we get on the plane, then we fly down there. And we get down there to Mississippi State, and it was really a great time of ministry. Our coach, Coach Hillsman, I had so much time to spend with him and talk to him about his life, his relationship with the Lord. the gentleman who helped me get the position, who recommended me for the position, he's on that staff. So it's really a great time of fellowship when you're on the road traveling with the teams, because there's really no distraction that are there. It's just you and the teammates. The young ladies who are about to play the games, they always schedule a devotional when you're on the road. They're voluntary. So we had 7 young ladies who came to our devotional and got to talk to them about the Lord. But the benefit is when we got back from the trip, the very next huddle, which are our Bible study groups, pretty much all the team came to the huddle, which would be like our church service. That church service is every Tuesday night. It's an hour. It goes from like 8 to 9:15 on Tuesday evenings. That's our quote-unquote church service for the athletes. So it's really been great work what the Lord has done for us. And it's all about transforming lives for Jesus Christ. Does this work? The opportunity for FCA is to provide a biblical framework for strong moral, ethical, and spiritual values for life choices. And really, our job, my job, is to take athletes as they are, which are superstars, if you get it, because they wouldn't be at Syracuse if they weren't the best where they come from. But you know when you're the best from Flint, and the best from California comes, and the best from overseas comes, guess what happens? You can talk. You find out that you're not the best anymore, right? The number one struggle that the athletes have is they're used to being the alpha. And many of them have to come and they find out they're not the alpha anymore. And it's a struggle. They struggle to the point that they start to do things that sometimes gets them put out the program. And so when they come to us, most kids, when they come to you, it's because they don't understand why God would allow them not to be good anymore. And they don't understand when they say, God, why I'm not good anymore. It's not that we have to tell them, you're still good. You're still good. But your life is bigger than athletics. That's the goal of FCA, really, that to teach young people that God has given you gifts. He wants to have a relationship with you so that you can glorify him. And when kids understand that, there's a change in their life. When they don't understand that, then there's the typical difficulties of just dealing with failure and rejection. And you can imagine, right, when you go to the game and 36,000 people scream your name. Ah! Ah! 1 second left in the game and you have a layup to make and you miss that layup. I don't know how it is here anymore, but I know in Syracuse basketball is everything. You got to hide out in your room. It's rough. They put in the newspaper, the dude had 50 points, but he missed a layup. That's a lot of responsibility. And so we try to encourage our athletes that God loves them and we love them, not based on what they do, because their whole life is based on what they do, or they wouldn't be there. It's based on who God made them to be. And so Fellowship of Community Athletes has been around for 60 years. I know many of you know that. And it's really, the whole gist of FCA is to take young people, coaches and athletes, and help them become great ambassadors for Jesus Christ. So at Syracuse University, I minister to coaches, athletes, through huddles, chaplaincies, team Bible studies, and more. So I'm in charge of the whole campus. There are 15 teams that we have. There is one individual who works with me, a young lady who works with me, and she works with most of the female athletes. So I work with most of the male teams. The female athletes, so when they come to me for counseling, I'll have an initial meeting with them, but then we send them off to her to work with her to engage their lives. So my job really is to oversee all of it. I work with football, basketball, and track and field. Now, the good thing about that is we always need more people. Always looking for more people. I'm looking for more people who have a heart to minister to athletes and coaches. And so guess what? I'm always scouting. Always looking for people who want to be involved. Now, you'd have to move to Syracuse, which is that's a great thing. You'd have to be around me. You'd have to be around my family. But that wouldn't be bad. You know, Pastor Scott's family and his wife is up there. They come visit you every once in a while. That'd be great, right? So I'm recruiting Jonathan. You going to come? No, okay, he's not coming. But, you know, ultimately, it's about bringing people to Christ, okay? It's not about wins or losses. It's about bringing people to Christ. You know, maybe I get in trouble, but I'm the type of person, I'm willing to do anything besides sin to see people come to Christ. Because ultimately, life change cannot happen without that taking place in one's life. And so, you think about FCA, you think about the Payne family, my children, especially Victoria. Victoria has a big role. She's allowed to be involved. My other children actually can't even go up on campus to be with me. NCAA regulations. Alexandria is signed to another school and is a recruitable athlete, so she can't come up there. Marcus is in 9th grade, and once you get into 9th grade, you're a recruitable athlete. He can't come up there. So when we go to the games, I can take my wife and Victoria. Melinda doesn't like to sit in the crowd, and this is too loud. You don't like it, do you, babe? No, she doesn't like it. Okay. I think Victoria enjoys it, but Marcus and Victoria, they would have to buy their tickets. And so they get to watch us on TV while we're at the games and encourage our athletes and so on. But all that said, to say, we would not be in this position at Syracuse University if it had not been for South Baptist Church. And when we came here, we really didn't. I mean, I'll say for me, I didn't really know exactly what to do. I'd never been in the church before. But many of you who are here when we were younger, and our little kids were all little together. I see they're all grown up now. We learned a lot of things together about life. And in God's sovereignty, he put us in this position. So I want to thank you as a church for investing in our lives. We really have never forgotten that. We thank you for the investment. We thank you for the lessons that we were taught, good and bad. You know, I think about some of the difficult lessons that you learn when you're serving the church. They're for our good now. I can see the benefit in them. And so as we move forward in the future, we hope that we can continue to stay in contact with South Baptist Church, that we can continue to be a family. And, you know, next time when we come, little Payne will be here, and you can see little Payne. And whenever you come to Syracuse University, you let us know. We'd love to take you up on the campus and see the work that we do. God has great plans for that university. The university area, the Northeast, is not a very spiritual area, as you know. It's not like the Midwest or down south. And so we're at the beginning of just trying to really let people see who we are as FCA, see us as individuals. And our goal next year is to do more family ministry. Typically, you would just minister to the coach and the athletes, but now we're starting to minister to the wives and their children. There's a ministry called Behind the Bench, which refers to the coaches' wives and girlfriends. And we have a ministry that starts with them, starting in the fall. So you can pray about that. Our goal is to see real life change. And we thank you once again for your investment in our lives. Any questions? Pastor Scott. Question time. God and his sovereignty. Oh, man. No, we did not have to move in our home. When we moved to Syracuse, I like telling stories. When we moved to Syracuse, we didn't want to buy a home right away, so we rented a home from a gentleman who was a Christian businessman. He rented a house to us. He lived in Maryland. And then when it was time for us to buy the home, he said that he appreciated us. He knew I was a pastor in ministry, and I think he'd owned the home for 15, 20 years. And he told us, I want to give you the home for what I paid for it back 15 years ago. So God in his sovereignty, he's just done so many things for us to see, to confirm what he wants to happen in our lives. So it was great. It was 10 minutes away. We're 10 minutes away from the university. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, I didn't hear you. Can you say it again? If you're afraid of sports, you must be a sissy. Well, we don't. We don't get into name calling, and we take people for who they are. I only specifically work with athletes. So everybody who's in there, 528 student athletes there. So the way Syracuse work, it's going to sound bad, all the regular students, their school, they actually are like a mile up the road. Syracuse University, there's a place called the Mello Center, that Carmelo Anthony built. That's where all the athletes hang out. Nobody else can get in that building. So they're the only people in there that work in athletics. So there are no, if you want to say, outsiders on that part of campus. Like you couldn't come up there and just walk in there. It's not going to happen. Yes. Yeah.
What about the outreach? Maybe that's maybe what he's saying. Like, what kind of things do you do? Do you have like trips once a year?
Yeah.
Minister, and do you bring the other athletes? And are you allowed to include athletes from other schools to go with you when you go?
So the way the NCAA works, especially now, we can bring athletes, if, let's say I was coming here, like when Syracuse played in Michigan State, they played in Detroit, technically we could come here. It's difficult because everything has to be filtered through the NCAA. And so you'd have to fill out paperwork. No one here could, quote unquote, give the athlete a meal because it's considered impermissible benefit. Whatever you do for an athlete, you have to do for regular students. So if you're doing something special for them just because they're an athlete, then technically they could get into trouble. And so our huddle groups, our Bible studies, we do those, and then we do service projects around campus. That's the way we get them. Like they'll serve food at the rescue mission, which would be like your Carriage Town. We get involved in things like that. There are retreats throughout the year, but I think your son plays that, so you know. These sports are year-round, especially at that level. They like football ended basically at the end of November, and school gets out next week. They get to go home for 2 weeks, and then they'll be here the rest of the year. It's a year-round job for most of them. So they're kind of limited in what they can do, especially at Syracuse. Yes, sir. Well, I started March 1st. The big success is really, I had to write up we would say a ministry proposal. And the AD, I had a good meeting with him, multiple meetings with him. And he is a very supportive FCA. The family ministry that we want to do, he's pushing that. Like, so this Friday, you can pray about that. This Friday, I'll be speaking to the whole athletic department this Friday. And then in August, when all the athletes come back, I'll be speaking to all the athletes as a group together right before school starts. So they have been very generous in allowing us to come in there and do different things. We actually had one of our football players from the past committed suicide back in March. And that really opened the door because people started to ask questions just about life and why did this happen. And that's really, he was in Mississippi with me, and I got to talk to him for a while. And that really is what opened the door for everything. And then Coach Boeheim's wife, we had a banquet a couple weeks ago. But she put her stamp of approval on us, my wife and so on. And that has really allowed us to start to open doors and for ministry. Yes, sir. No, it's been there for 5.5, 6 years. In the past, it's the Northeast, so it's not like down south where FCA is pretty big. So the gentleman there, he started the process, and then so they have me come in to build up on it. Normally, like in Oklahoma, like at our huddle groups, which are our Bible studies, we'll average probably, like last week, we probably had like 60 kids. Oklahoma, Clemson, places like that, they'll have like 500 or 600 people at their huddle groups. So we're at the very beginning of it and trying to build it up. Yes, sir.
Do you plan to have ministries like for different issues going on with the athletes that they're facing to try to outreach to them and dealing with drugs or dealing with relationships, those type of things to try to get yourself involved with the kids and help out?
Right. Yeah, so normally the female athletes, they'll tell everything when you meet with them. I hate to say it like that. They just, okay. The male athletes aren't going to do that until you have a strong relationship with them. And so we're really, so I have partnerships with people that I know. So for example, our plan is to do some retreats next year. And, marriages really struggle at that level, a high divorce rate. So a person like me, when I know I'm going to do the retreat, I call upon people to come in and do some teaching for me. So Pastor Scott's riding up to Syracuse. I know he comes around the area. So we come and have pastors do those retreats and so on for us. But they've had people come in the past that were connected, but now I'm here. And so I only bring the people I know. I don't know too many people. So, but yeah, we try to minister all that. So there's counselors. So we have a lady whose job is like drug addiction and so on. The school actually sets that up for athletes too. It's just the athlete really has to hit rock bottom before it'll come out. And so our job, kind of what you said, is to try to deal with that before they get to that place. But we do have people who meet those needs. But I don't do drug counseling. I would send that to a professional. Does that answer?
Well, just saying if you had some plans to have some type of ways to get to the kids ahead of time and introduce them into like Christian-based
Oh, yeah.
things to really give them an opportunity to
Right.
maybe learn to deal with that ahead of time so they don't get into the problem.
Right. So at the meetings, so what happens, just out when you meet a team, so like women's basketball, the coach, he comes, he puts his arm around you, and he says, hey, if you got some issues, this is the man you need to see. I trust in this man. This is our guy. This is FCA. They're going to be traveling. You guys have stuff going on in your lives. You need to come see them. And the coach will typically, if they know that a player has an issue, they would tell us so we can address it then. The coaches know everything. Don't ever believe coaches don't know. The coaches know everything. Regardless of what you see on the news, they know everything. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So how can we keep track of what to pray for you guys?
We have a newsletter that comes out that will always list those prayer requests, those updates. If you want to be on the mailing list, you give me your email and we'll put you on there. But we always send out updates about what's going on in the ministry. The best way really to see the ministry, I know that you've probably done it with Marty Dittmer, is to actually come to Syracuse and just to come see what's taking place. That's actually the best way to see it. Call me before you come. Yeah. Huh? No. They won't let you in the building. Mr. Isham. Yes, sir. We're doing pretty good. We're close. We're about, if we're about $500-600 short a month, right around there. But it's not like, so a lot of people give gifts, just, you know how missionaries work. They want you to raise money each month, so you get funds that come in each month. But God in his sovereignty, people give special gifts that take care of that. And so I'll put it like this. I'm not sweating, but we're always looking for partnerships, that people we trust and who we know have a heart for the Lord. I tell people there's two types of people in this work I've learned. There are fans, and then there are people who truly care about the athletes and the coaches. The fans are the people who say, you know what, I want to be involved, and we want to help support. Can you give me front row tickets to the Duke game? That happens they don't hide it. They don't hide it. They just, you know it's coming. You're sitting there like, oh, here it comes. Or, do you think you can get me a meeting? I had a lady text me like, I got this kid transferring from Oklahoma. He's coming to Syracuse. Can you let Coach Babers know? And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't get it. So there's a whole bunch of people just like that. And then there's the other side of people who say, you know what, we want to be a part of this ministry, we want to invest in this ministry, and we truly care about the athletes and so on, about their spiritual needs. And so you kind of find out pretty quick, because people who care about their spiritual needs, that's what they ask about. Other people, they just ask about the sports. And the sports are just temporary. Yes, sir?
It wasn't Pastor Scott that asked what to do.
No, no.
But if you can get that, I mean,
What are your biggest headwinds? What's the biggest struggle that you see going forward? You're taking FCA from a fledgling organization on Syracuse, and you're really stepping it up in some way. What's in your way?
We're in the Northeast. The Northeast is not the Bible Belt. And typically right now, I'm the only person who is involved with athletics. So they have different organizations, Campus Crusade and Word of Life, those type of organizations. They're up at the regular campus. The only person at Syracuse with athletics is myself. And there's no other religious denomination. There's no one else, no Catholics, no Buddhists, none of that. It's just FCA. But as you know, as things are changing, the concern would be down the road that other people would say, how comes they're the only ones who have the access here and we want it also? The unique thing about it right now is as long as Coach Boeheim is there, it'll probably stay that way because he carries a lot of weight at the school. When he leaves, we don't know. He's planning to coach 4 more years. So.
And you said his wife's a member of a garden church up there?
His wife is, Eastern Hills. It's called Eastern Hills Baptist. Is it Eastern Baptist? What is that called? It's called Eastern Hills. I just know Mel Walker used to come there all the time and speak. So, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, so it's never a problem of churches wanting the athletes. Okay. I think it's more of sending them to the right churches. All right. So I'll give you an example. One of the reasons that Jim Boeheim does not go to church is because they said he used to come to the churches and everybody would always ask him about the basketball game. So it was never he would just come and sit down. It was basketball, basketball, basketball. Same thing happens with athletes. Really, basketball and football. It's the same thing. So really, it's, like I said, trying to find the churches where people care about them and they're not fans. And the other thing is with the NCAA, Syracuse just came off of probation, so they have to be very careful with everything that takes place. And I don't think people understand that. So the very first time we had people at our house, it was after a huddle group. There were some football players there, and we invited them over, and they came and ate dinner at my house. It was actually a violation because you had to go get permission from compliance to do that, and a lot of people don't understand that. So it's really trying to filter out what churches that we want them to, that we can recommend. So I meet with a lot of pastors and try to talk with them about that. Any more questions? Well, because service, I'll stop. I was going to sing a special number, but I'll stop right now, and I won't do that.
I assumed you were going to do that. So if you wanted to get their newsletter, one of the things you can do is just email our office, and we'll take all of the emails that come in, and we'll forward them on to Will, and then Will can put it into his list that he'll send out. So just email office@sbcflint.org. Shelley will get that and then get that all to Will, and then he can get you the updates. And he sends them to our church as well. We can forward them on. if you need to. So you know what he's going to do. You can be praying for him. Again, we Skyped with him like 2 months ago, I think. And the biggest thing he was still trying to wrap his mind around is all of these NCAA rules and regulations, because, like you said, Syracuse coming off probation is like ultra on the one end now. They don't want to go back there because they can lose scholarships and lose other things. So, and all of that he has to know too, because if he if he violates them, he's gone. So he's got to be very careful. So pray that he would be able to grasp all of that and be able to understand it. And then just be praying for the students. College students in general struggle in a university setting like that because there is so much going on. That is magnified in the life of an athlete, especially athletes by way of basketball and football in that environment. They are looked at as almost gods, especially in the Syracuse area, because there is no other sports in that part of New York. I lived there. So Syracuse was it, right? And so these athletes come in, and like you said, they wrestle with so much stuff. And that's why you see them. They go do things that most people wouldn't think about doing, but they think they have the right to do some of these things. And so be praying that he would have the impact in their lives that could drastically change who they are and who they see themselves to be. I think that's really important. So we'll close in prayer. You can go grab some coffee. You can also grab some Danishes, and I don't know what else is out there. We have stuff left over from yesterday. It's awesome. So go help yourself with that. All right, God, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the encouragement of what you have laid the foundation for and Will and his family's life to be able to have this ministry platform there at Syracuse. Pray that you would use him, you would use his family. They would impact coaches and coaches' families and students' lives. This next generation, as they come through that university, that he would have a great impact with these students and athletes. Be with us this morning as we move ahead in our worship service, that we would focus completely on you, and we ask it in Christ's name, amen. You're dismissed.